What's up? Welcome to Dialogues and Dice. Happy Tuesday. I am your Dungeon Master Gorbat. Joining me this week is Shagget, also known as...
Emlyn Sin, the Tiefling Warlock from the Wrath of the Fallen. Hi, guys.
And also known as Jean-Claude VD, from Tortured Earth.
VD does not stand for venereal disease. Let's get your minds out of the gutter.
It stands for veterinary doctor. Yeah, we know, but you know, Jean-Claude VD.
Jean-Claude VD.
And your beloved monkey, Frank Dukes.
His racist monkey, not racist monkey.
Yeah. The 80s puns were real on Sunday, man. Everything from Rock Lobster's band playing every piece of trash 80s song that he could do, to movie references, to you name it, we had it. There's stuff I don't know whether the chat picked up on all of it, but of course you had Rock Lobster. The band was Rocky and Creed.
Yes.
Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think they did pick up on it.
And then the two Pizors that owned Cotton, Axel
and
Rosalina, or Rose as she's known. Axel, Rose, yeah. So there we go. There's a whole bunch of that. The bee puns in chat were on fire. I know, right? All that cosplay, though. I mean, the girls threw on some makeup and stuff, but Shagget, man, I mean, that goblin cosplay, whew.
Dude, it took me 32 and a half years to do that,
I know,
that
right?
Costume.
32 and a half years of becoming who you are to stand there and look like that.
Yeah.
But never mind.
I did feel a little bad because, like, the ladies did so much great work on their costumes. And
they did.
First
They
thing
looked
you see
awesome.
in chat was people mocking that I didn't have
That's
costume.
it. And if you did miss it, you missed the return of Bane as well. Bane played Torture's Earth with us. So here on the current show, Wrath of the Fallen, because of some real life things, as some of you guys know, Bane has taken a one campaign hiatus to take care of some life stuff. But she will be back. But she was so excited about Tortured Earth, she was definitely making sure she was here for that. So you got to see her return for Tortured Earth. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that a little later on. We've got a whole bunch of fun stuff for you this evening. So stick around for that. We're going to go ahead and kick things off as we normally do. Intro out of the way. So let's get things moving to our next segment this evening, which is... where are we at? There we are.
Adventure Recap.
The Adventure Recap, where Shagget is going to do his utmost to bring you up to speed with everything Wrath of the Fallen. And then at the end of it, we're also going to go ahead and bring you up to speed with a little bit of what happened on Sunday. We're going to recap Sunday as well. So, we won't give a lot of spoilers away. The both episodes, if you missed Monday night's episode of Wrath of the Fallen, it'll be up on YouTube probably, if not later tonight, by tomorrow. And the Tortured Earth one will be up this week as well, so you'll have that to look forward to. But, Shagget, old pal.
Yes.
Take it away. Recap it. 10 minutes or less. Go!
This only gets more and more difficult. And, yeah. So, Wrath of the Fallen stars 4 less than savory people. Emlyn Sin, my character, Tiefling Warlock. Amanda, or Dystress's character, is Liv, a human druid. Jane's character is Tolgar Wolfspine, a human barbarian. And Spook plays Lilith, a dancer, a human dancer, which is like a special class, right? A special dealio. Story starts off, we're on a boat. The boat we're heading towards a prison island. We hit a rock in a storm. The ship starts to sink. All the prisoners break free. We all 4 of us do escape and end up on a small little island that has some cannibals and a wadi. This crazy loner type dude, kind of mystical, kind of not. Who helps us escape this island by, giving us a ship that he had previously planned to leave on, but then chose not to because he felt an attunement to the world. We tangoed with the cannibals on the island a little bit. We killed a few of them, but we also broke into their camp after they ate some people. which is always a good time, post human flesh eating feast celebration. They're drunk on whatever. Anyway, get into my cannibalism here. We escape the island. We head and we are adrift for several weeks until we are saved by a merchant ship by who we think might be pirates, but they turn out just to be merchants who are not sailing their flag because of pirates. They agreed to drop us off in the town of Lusker, which is from the Dark Inquest campaign, where Soren Lawrenson was the councilman who was practicing necromancy and who the Dark Inquest party killed and dealt with. We had no gold, so we stayed in the barn next to the inn overnight. Then we went and heard about a job opportunity to be hired as guardsmen for this ruins that had been discovered north of Lusker called Arilla, which is also from Dark Inquest. We get there by boats up the river, and basically for the next week, we solve the mysteries of, guardsmen disappearing by strange humanoid creatures, one of which is a were-tiger, and one of which we never officially confirmed, but it's a Yuanti, let's be real, is a snake man. The party slowly comes to work out their relationships with each other. There's still a lot of tension, a lot of people not kind of thinking on the same page. Liv and Spook and, Tolgar and Emlyn, we're all very different, and not all of us are good. I mean, we're all not good, but two of us are especially evil. Anyway, we save the town. We save Arilla, the guards people, for the renovations. Although the guy doing the renovations, I forget his name, he kind of goes a little crazy trying to decipher the mysteries of Arilla. We go back to Lusker. We learn that there's a ship heading to Kanduin that we can become guards on. Ironically, being fugitives, we decide to become guards a couple of times. We narrowly escape Lusker because the guards kind of figure out that we are wanted and fugitives. You gonna say something, or?
No.
Okay, I just heard the sound.
Yeah, no. They figured out you were. You assume that that's what it was. So it's the point, because as the ship was leaving the dock, guards come running, screaming, "Stop the ship! Stop the ship!" And the captain pretended not to hear because he didn't want to have to go through all the rigmarole of having to turn the ship around, remooring it. He was on a timeline, so he pretended conveniently not to hear a damn thing.
No, pretty much. We get to Kanduin, where Emlyn Sin, my character, had been before. He wants to retrieve his book, which is, he took Pact of the Tome and Book of Ancient Shadows, but, that's all mechanical stuff. He had hid it in a house in the slums of Kanduin, which is a huge coastal city south of Korthan, quite a ways away, and the place for Marks of Intrigue. I mean, it's due south of all that area. Sorrowmorn and Scarrow and all that stuff. We get the book, but we it is an occupied house, but we ask the old people in there to, we basically convince them to let us in. We give them some gold, and we get my book back, Emlyn's book back. And then we leave to go, the ladies go shopping, Liv and Spook and Lilith go shopping, while Tolgar and Emlyn go to this nice, the drunk chicken, or is it drunk? The drunken duck.
Chicken, the drunken duck, the drunk chicken, the drunk winged fowl creature.
The drunk duck. There, Tolgar tells Emlyn basically that he is trying to, draw a map of everything to keep track of things, and Emlyn helps him out a little bit. Meanwhile, Lilith and Liv go shopping for clothes because Liv, being a druid who transforms into animals, has to shed her clothes quite frequently, else they'll rip like, the Hulk. But then they meet up with us, we have dinner, we discuss our next plan of action, we say we need to get out of Kanduin as soon as possible. And then some unsavory people enter the tavern, and we find out later that they are bounty hunters who have descriptions of all four of us, including some others, because all of us being fugitives and we're wanted by the law. Some sirens are coming for me, apparently. I did something horrible.
You're wanted by the law as well.
I'm wanted by the law, too.
See, this is how deep Shaggett takes his roleplay to get in character. You know how a lot of actors, they'll if it's a crime drama, they'll ride along with cops or talk to prisoners and stuff like that in jail. That's what Shaggett did. To get into Emlyn's mind, he broke into a house and murdered a couple of old people.
Hey, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. You're spoilers. Oh wait, I'm kidding. Spoilers. Anyway, these bounty hunters are in the tavern, acting very organized, very foreboding, or they're scary motherfuckers, basically. Liv gets it in her head once the party says we should probably avoid them at all costs and not find out what they're up to because they look like they're dangerous and we're wanted. Decides to walk up to them and ask them a bunch of questions, basically putting her and then us on their radar. We narrowly escape by some luck that some other unsavory people were also in the tavern by the name of the Clarenson sisters from the Children of Jakar campaign, which Marlowe or Spook's other character Marlowe knows too much about. We escape, we reconvene, and decide to go back to the house where I had hid my book. Emlyn knowing full well that the people who live in said house probably need to die. We get to that house, we kill those people, and then find out that we are being pursued by these bounty hunters, who apparently have put a mark on Liv that allow them to know where we are generally for quite a long duration. We escape the house, flee the pursuers, get on a horse and a cart, and head west in Cantooine, provoking the ire of some town guards that are just patrolling the street. Emlyn and Tolgar kill one of them. Liv is in cat form at this point, and Lilith does some fancy footwork to back handsprings away from everything. We meet this shadowy character by the name of Silent Joe, who instructs us to follow him.
Right.
And we are brought to a thieves guild, where the head of the thieves, I don't actually remember his name, Gore, so help me out here.
The head of the Thieves Guild? That would have been Gillian Blake.
Mr. Blake tells us that we don't have much gold, we're wanted by the law. Is there any... And he basically told us that we can get you out of the city because now all of Cantooine knows that we're wanted, and the exit is probably upped their patrols and their guards, and they have images of us. They know we killed a guardsman. They told us to go to a house to steal an item of importance that has religious significance, Cuthbertarian significance. It's like a little brass ball with a cross or a holding symbol and gems and stuff inlaid in it. We agreed to these terms, rest to long rest, because Liv needs to, she needs to recoup her spells, and she's also wounded. We are escorted by Silent Joe to this house, where we lack any utensil or tool to break into said house, because it's like 3 a.m. at the time. So Tongar kicks down the door. Basically, we rush in. We encounter an archmage who is just like Gore told me last night he was a level 2 illusionist. I felt so bad.
Yeah, he lied his ass off. He was just trying to intimidate you guys into leaving his house. That's all.
Yeah, he was like, "I'll fireball the living room." Meanwhile, his son is attacking me because Tolgar is like, "Well, it's a magic caster. I'll get away." And Liv and Lilith are in the other room looking for this item. Hijinks ensue. The son dies. The archmage unfortunately gets webbed and then roped and then webbed and then killed, thanks to Lilith. I'm just going to say right now, Emlyn would not have killed the old man. I actually really kind of liked him. We procure the item. We return to Blake in the Thieves Guild. Offer the item. Find out that Silent Joe is missing. He was originally supposed to return to the Thieves Guild after escorting us to the house, but he didn't. So Blake wants to know where the guy is. We fear that he double-crossed us to some degree. Lilith gets really pissed off and threatens to kill the whole Thieves Guild, which has like 40 thieves and rogues, and we're 4 people who had just had an encounter in a fight. So that caused issues. Blake was like, well, I could have offered you more support, most likely, possibly, but not anymore. So he sends one of the other thieves to send us to the escape house, which we find is being guarded by the bounty hunters. So our one chance for escape, there are bounty hunters around said house in the slums, which we need to get to, and that's kind of where we left off. The son died awesomely, Alchemy.
He did, yeah. That was a funny encounter. Definitely worth watching on YouTube. If you missed that encounter, it's definitely worth watching. All right, well, that brings you pretty much up to speed with where we are in the current state of play in that game. So, let's go ahead, roleplay to the core. Thank you for the follow, buddy. So, let's talk about Sunday. So,
right.
We're not going to try to give too many spoilers away, but here's the gist of it. 4 non-human, pretty much except for Shaggett's character, Jean-Claude, who is a goblin. The other 3 are all basically animorphs of sorts. You have Jane Ivana, who is playing a Dravic hit woman. So she is kind of like a bee animorph. You have Spook playing a Lunalu, which is like a raccoon. Spook basically is a double gun wielding raccoon. Think Rocket the Raccoon, that's pretty close to it. And then Bane is playing the Granla, which is like the half lioness. So it's a pretty weird mix of group, because obviously Tortured Earth has a lot of very unique races. But here's the gist of it. They are all living inside Monroe, Louisiana, 40 plus years from now, 50 plus years from now. And you are in a world that is degenerated to almost like a pre-industrial era. You know, economy and everything is gone. Manufacturing of all regular products is gone. And Monroe itself is pretty much suffering from a terrible drought. So the economy is bad. Our heroes in Tortured Earth respond to a bulletin from a beloved Dr. Pibbs. And Dr. Pibbs is, he's a historian, basically.
He's an alcoholic.
Well, he never got drunk, really, did he?
No, that's true. He was a bird man.
I mean, he drank a lot, but he didn't really get drunk. But Dr. Pibbs, they met him in a restaurant called Cotton. And he seemed to have an uncanny knack for luring people in to listen to his stories. Our heroes responded to it. He hired them because the council had put out a bounty for somebody to help solve a water issue. The water pressure had gone to nothing. The water had become foul-smelling, having a kind of a nasty, acrid color to it. And Dr. Pibbs had been hired by the council to figure out what was going on. Now he is, I don't want to call Dr. Pibbs lazy, but let's just say he's an educated individual and he doesn't like to get his hands dirty. So he hired our 4 heroes to go and be his hands, as it were. They met with the council, found out exactly what was going on. They made their way to the person that had the chief complaint, which is at the Ironworks Brewery. So they went there and investigated. They confirmed that the water pressure was terrible. It was basically destroying production of the beer, which is like a huge trade thing for Monroe. And all these weird little pencil-sized pointed sticks kept showing up, which I know had everybody, what the hell? What the hell? This doesn't make any sense. I'll tell a little bit later on. Well, they decided that they were going to head to the water treatment plant to investigate the problem, but they were going to check some of the inlet valves and the back valves on the way up there. So they stopped at North 7th Street. Pibbs suggested that they go check the valve, make sure it wasn't closed or anything like that, and they were going to work their way back looking for problems. So, with only one flashlight to their name, being carried by the Lunalu, which is Spook's character, Rocket Raccoon, if you will, they ventured down into the sewers, where they found... before that, they had a run-in with a big group of dwarves that were beating the crap out of a crevice runner. A crevice runner is kind of like a cockroach. Really nasty, filthy, dirty things. Whenever Spook actually read the description of a crevice runner in the Tortured Earth handbook, she was actually physically repulsed. It was really funny. But in any case, they went down there, they found a dwarf who had somehow been hurled through a side grate, and he had landed like embedded in the main water pipe. The water was dripping out all around him. Some of it was flowing through, but of course, you got pieces of decayed dwarf floating down. So maybe that's something to do with it. But they found he was also covered in all these little tiny stabby little sticks. And then they found out what that was as a horde of nasty little troglodytes come charging down, whooping and hollering, throwing their little spears. Our heroes fled from the barely 1.5 foot tall individuals and escaped the sewer, but not before they came flying up, crawling all over the Lunalu and bursting out into the high street. And that's kind of where we left off. So the next episode we'll see them trying to battle a massive horde of troglodytes, and that encounter within itself has got some very unique mechanics to it, so I think you're going to have a lot of fun and enjoy that. So that kind of gives you a little bit of up-to-date where we are on the two different stories we've got going on. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. We're going to talk to Emlyn Sin,
Yes.
the Warlock, in our next segment.
Character update.
Emlyn Sin, there he is in all of his glory, Tiefling Warlock, tailless Tiefling Warlock,
Emphasis on tailless.
because he chopped his own damn tail off. Who would do such a thing?
Sick
Emlyn
puppy.
would. Yeah. So anyway, Emlyn. So since last we talked to you, some strange things have occurred in your life. So let's begin. Obviously, the very first thing we have to figure out is, when we talked to you last time, you were on the verge. You watched Liv go and talk to the bounty hunters,
Yes.
and you and Tolgar, and then, albeit indecisively, Lilith, all decided to leave her to it,
Pretty much.
and you all ran
Yep.
and left her in the clutches of said bounty hunter.
Right.
So, I think we all know the answer, but go ahead and tell us, why would you do such a thing? Where was the thought process?
Because I'm smart. I'm a smart tiefling warlock. I know how to stay alive. If I'm going to stay alive, I'm going to stay alive. And if someone's going to do something stupid, I'm going to leave them to it.
Okay, so it was totally a self-preservation tactic.
Oh, completely.
Nothing against Liv, it was just, screw you,
No,
you're
if
probably
any-
going to die, and I'm not dying with you.
Hey, I distanced myself from Lilith when she threatened to kill the Guild of Thieves. I was like, look, she doesn't speak for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to that one.
We'll get to that.
Okay, but then after that, Liv didn't seem to have too many hard feelings. She did escape. But in that, something strange happened, and somehow the bounty hunter has been able to track you guys almost unnaturally so.
Yes.
So you went back, the poor old couple that lived in the house where you stashed your book, where you went and visited them the first time and basically told them the truth. Hey, I broke into your house and hid something here. I'm just here to return it or to get it back. Let me get it and we'll leave you well enough alone. Which they kind of did. But this time you decided to go and hide out in their house.
Right.
And then things didn't go quite the same way this time, did they? In short, you you segregated the man and his sister, and while Lilith strangled the sister to death in the kitchen,
Yeah.
you and Tolgar put pay to the poor old guy. So, what was the motivation behind killing them this time when you didn't the first time?
Well, the second we got close to the house the second time, they were trying to move a piece of furniture in front of the door, so clearly they knew we were coming and they were afraid. I was like, we need a place to lay low. This is the only place I know in the town that's not a tavern, not a place I haven't been before. And I knew that we could take them. Like, if it actually devolved into a fight, because they're old people. They're old people.
Hey, some powerful wizards can be old people.
It really came to a fore when I looked out the front window when we were talking to the guys in their separated conditions, and I saw who I later found to be Silent Joe. I saw Silent Joe, and I was like, yeah, we need to get out of here, because I suspected he worked for the bounty hunters, and he knew where we were. I didn't know his true motivations. I didn't know who he represented. So the second I saw Silent Joe across the street kind of like waving at me, knowing where we were, I was like, we need to kill this old couple and go out the back. And that was really the motivation.
Right.
I suspected we were probably going to kill them no matter what. I mean, they just cause trouble. They make noise. We didn't want to.
Yeah, old people, as they, cause trouble, make noise. That's what they do.
Need to go to the bathroom all the time.
Such an asshole.
Backs hurt, Gotta kill him.
Okay. Well then, you realize that somebody, a fellow in a green hood who had been following you around, knew you were in there. And Mr. Hoots, Lives Al, tipped you guys off to the bounty hunters were coming down the street. So you all fled.
Yes.
In this, basically, street chase, the bounty hunters were chasing you guys. You guys ran down. Tolgar, seeing an opportunity where there's a guy who was walking a horse and cart, she basically bull rushed the guy, and it's still unknown if he was killed or not. Tolgar hit the guy at a full run. The guy flew through the air, landed on his back, on his head, and he did not move. So at that point, you all piled on the cart and fled through the streets of the city.
Yes.
Tolgar almost ran you guys straight through the marketplace, but at the last minute he tried to take a detour to avoid the market. But still driving like a reckless buffoon, he almost ran into a group of 5 or 6 guards. Right. And they yelled and said, "Hey, you stop!" Primarily because he was driving so recklessly, which he didn't. So at this point, the guards, of course, opened fire on the horse to try to stop the horse and cart. And a kind of, sort of battle ensued with the guards. It really wasn't a full-blown fight because there was a lot of things being done to disable the guards.
Yeah. The captain started stripping for... I assume it's because of Lilith.
Yeah, Lilith hit him with a suggestion and told him to strip, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the broad daylight, after a failed saving throw, yes, he's ripping off all of his clothes and causing quite a scene. But then you all ended up having to run on foot, and at that point, Tolgar had now killed one of the guards, and there were a ton of witnesses, because it was right on the edge of the market. Plus, the other guards that were not killed saw it happen. So at this point, you're assuming now that, hey, the guards now, whether they knew who we were before, they now are looking for us because we fought against the town guard and killed one of them.
Yes.
And you got the bounty hunters on your tail. So at this point, a little fellow who turns out to be Silent Joe, who at this point has not said a single word, beckons you to follow him, and he leads you to a safe house, right, which turns out to actually be a thieves' guild, which is led by Gillian Blake. He has like an Arabic executioner that works for him, Hassan Ramisva, who, as you showed up, was in the process of beheading somebody that had already crossed Gillian Blake, which was a pretty good indicator to you not to quit the guy, I would have thought.
That's what I thought.
But in any case, so he has a guild wizard working for him, who turned out to be someone by the name of Callan DeWint. Now, tell us the relevance of Callan DeWint to you.
In Corthan, there's a wizard by the name of Porthan DeWint. He's kind of a freelance, mercenary kind of wizard who, for gold, will produce magical effects and services. It is this Porthan DeWint who got me arrested in the first place for stealing a rather expensive red gem, after I apprenticed for him for quite a while prior. So yeah, the second I heard that he had a brother who was on the bad side of things, I was interested and also nervous, because who knows what could happen with the DeWints. I know DeWints, they're powerful mages or wizards or whatever.
Well, at least Porthan is. But as you've seen from this guy, he
knew some things.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to hide you guys from the prying eyes of the bounty hunters for 12 full hours. Now that was a small contesting point there, because Liv wanted to rest, which was going to take 8 hours, and you'd already wasted half an hour. So knowing you only have 12 hours of protection, basically, from these pretty nasty bounty hunters, that left you only 2.5 hours to get to the house, steal the object, and get back with it.
Right.
So now the original agreement was that you were going to steal this object for Gillian Blake, because he didn't want any of his thieves associated with this particular theft, which never really came out why in a whole bunch of detail, but needless to say, he was going to have Silent Joe, who volunteered to assist you.
Yes.
Who turned out to ended up not being quite so silent, and the entire thing, that's his like street thing. He pretends to be a mute to gain sympathy, but really he can talk. So the original agreement was Silent Joe would lead you to what they called the safe house or the escape house, which allegedly has a way from that house out of the city, tunnel, something like that.
We need desperately, yes.
Right. And then he was going to take you to the Mark's house so that you could actually steal the object in question. Now, when you left, Silent Joe led you straight to the Mark's house. Nobody at all questioned him and said, hey, what about showing us to the escape house? Is that... I don't know about for everybody else, and I'm sure you can't speak for everybody else, but from Emlyn's standpoint, was that just a character oversight, a player oversight, or did Emlyn truly not give a crap and just wanted to get on with the job? I mean, what was the deal there?
So here's the deal. We can answer the player thing later. I will say from Emlyn's perspective, he didn't want to do a long rest. He was getting impatient as all hell. Warlocks, they don't need long rests to get their spell slots back, mechanically. Emlyn didn't give a shit about the long rest and the fact that Liv was hurt. That's really what it was. Liv was hurt from the rapier-wielding bounty hunter. She had no spell slots left as being a druid who requires long rests. Emlyn didn't give a shit. He was just like, look, let's just go. So when he was leading to the Mark's house, the second he said this is the Mark's house, Emlyn was like, good, now we can break in and get this thing over with, because I already wasted 8 hours in a thieves' den that was not comfortable. That was what it is.
Okay.
From a player perspective, I was honestly just hoping one of the other players would fucking ask
would remember.
questions.
I think I got the general gist that everyone had just plumb forgot. And for whatever reason, Silent Joe was quite okay with that.
Right.
Anyway,
you
get in the house. You find it's basically nothing but an old man and his son. His son was either he had stolen a shield from a renowned mercenary company, or at one point was a member of a renowned mercenary company. He put up a reasonable fight, but he wasn't super tough, so it's like, could be either or.
Right.
As you come to find out later, the old man who claimed to be an archmage and threatened he would incinerate you all if you didn't leave his house was nothing more than a petty illusionist, and
who was then manufacturing illusion fire, threatening to fireball everybody.
Right.
Which,
But after that, you stole the item in question, made your way back to the Thieves Guild, sans Silent Joe, because Silent Joe said that he was going back, as he was instructed to. When you got back to the Thieves Guild, there was no Silent Joe. Now, this is where things got really interesting from my standpoint, because Lilith was fixated on the concept that if Silent Joe didn't come back, he might be double-crossing us.
Right.
The leader of the Thieves Guild, Gillian Blake, was fixated on, what the hell did you do to my thief? Why isn't he with you? Both groups having no reason to trust the other. It was a kind of a really tense moment, and Lilith, I think her anger got the better of her.
I agree.
And she said, hey, if your thief, or if your rogue double crosses us, I'm going to kill all of you, you included. Which you would think is not the smartest thing to say as you stand in front of a leader of a Thieves Guild surrounded by the people that you just threatened. So, what's Emlyn's take on that? Why... I mean, how did you feel when that happened? Did you suddenly think, that's it, we're all fixing to get shanked?
Well, I was just like, I try to conduct business fairly to get what I want. And what do I want at this point? To leave the fucking city. That's my only goal. So if I only accepted the job to steal the item because it was the only way we were going to get an option to leave the city. Yeah. So when Lilith said, I'm going to kill all of you because this guy's double-crossing us, first, there's no evidence that it was a double-cross. He's just missing. Who knows what happened?
Right.
But that does not stop the deal we had made with Blake. The deal we had made with Blake was, hey, you give me this item, I'll show you out of the city safely.
Which ultimately he did honor.
Which he still honored. So my thought when she did that was, oh God, you're on your own here. I'm not standing beside you because it's stupid. And you can be mad at me for no reason. I didn't do anything. I'm following what we agreed to.
Right. Well, and ironically, what's funny there is because Lilith runs a place, used to run a place called the Garden of Eden, Lilith Edenwood. She was a madam of sorts. She took care of ladies of the night. But she herself is a confessed man-hater.
Yes.
So some of that made sense, but what really added insult to injury is after this happened, realizing once again, just like when Liv acted in your eyes rashly in confronting the bounty hunters, everybody distanced themselves from Liv. Immediately, it's like, whoop, we're not with her. That happened again with Lilith, because immediately you were like, yeah, she doesn't speak for me. Liv just
said that too.
Liv just stood there quiet, and Tolgar said, basically to the effects of, ignore her, the woman doesn't speak for us, like dismissal. Which, of course, to a confessed man-hater, it was sexist, and that really pissed her off.
Yep, it really did, but she asked for it, man. All's fair.
But as it happened, even though Gillian Blake clearly could have just killed all of you, probably, without a problem, he didn't want the complication. He accepted that, she probably just spoke out of turn. But from his point of view, so understand, Gillian Blake, he runs a thieves guild. The people that work for him are not particularly trustworthy individuals. Some of them may be. There's a code, a thieves ethic, honor amongst thieves, whatever. But for the most part, the reason he is in charge, the reason he wields power, is by fear.
Right.
So when somebody threatened to kill him and his thieves, he really had no choice but to lay the smack down really hard, really heavy, really quick. Because if they would have seen him as weak, it could have set him up for usurpation. Someone could have tried to usurp him or whatever. So he did the big, okay, that's it, get all the women out. What they don't need to see what's fixing to come next. Which I was deliberately to get everybody realizing, oh crap, it's about to go down. We're in trouble. All of the thieves swarmed around you. You were all pretty much surrounded. And then he pretty much berated Lilith and said, you don't come into my guild and threaten me and my people. You exist right now. You live because I allow you to. You're in my city. I run this city, not the authorities. I run it. And he was really kind of emphasizing trying to get across to everybody and make you guys understand the real power behind the throne sort of thing. But then he did allow you guys to leave.
Right.
So, seeing as Silent Joe was no longer with you, he sent an appointed other guide. And as you made your way to the house, that was the house where apparently you need to go in to find the tunnel, it was surrounded by the bounty hunter and his lackeys. So how did he figure that out? How was he there? Is Lilith right? Did Silent Joe sell you up the river? Who knows? But that's what we're fixing to find out.
I just want to say for the record that if I was in charge of that guild, I like Blake, I would have done the same exact thing. Emlyn, I mean, he listen, he is strange. He's not honorable, but he is not fair. I don't think fair is the right word, but he will approach a situation with this is where I'm coming from, you come from here, either help me or get out of my way. If I'm overwhelmed or I can't win out of a situation, I will just acquiesce and just go with it. That's what Emlyn does. I mean,
it's kind of like on the ship. When Liv turned into a cat and hid on the ship, and everyone was trying to lie to these people, saying that she was never in the dinghy, when 3 or 4 of them physically saw her in it.
Yeah.
And there was this big kind of over-exaggerated attempt to lie about it. Emlyn just suddenly comes out with the complete 100% honest truth. which he has
know-
done numerous times.
You will notice a few. I mean, during that, it was Lilith and Tolgar who were doing the lying. Amlin
Right.
was quiet, just looking at them. And then it wasn't that he sold Liv out. It was that he saw that course would not get what he wanted. So he was going a different way.
Right.
And I told the old couple I had broken into that. I don't think he mentioned his name specifically, but he said someone had.
Right.
Up front as much as possible without necessarily implicating himself.
So it's
To
like
get what he
Emlyn,
wants. It's
Emlyn has no problem lying, but if he feels like the truth is going to serve him better, then the truth is what's going to come out.
and that's what he's going to do. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right.
And I think that's the same thing with the, arguably with the murder of the old couple. You know, some people were like, well, there was really no reason to murder them. In Emlyn's eyes, there clearly was, because it's like, look, this is a loose end we don't need to leave behind.
Right.
They know too much about us, they know us, they've seen us numerous times. The first time, they weren't here when you broke in, so it didn't matter. The second time when you all came back to get the book, it was like, hey, a little bit of fear, get the book, leave, no problem. There was no anticipation of ever coming back or an
was not the plan,
anticipation
yeah.
of getting into yet more legal trouble here in Kanduin.
Right.
But once that had happened, the circumstances had changed. So at that point, Emlyn was like, you know, the best thing here for us is if these people don't breathe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah. Well said.
All right. All right, well, we're going to move on. We are going to talk about the game that is Tortured Earth in our next segment as we move forward with our bonus content.
Bonus content. The gate is open. Beware the mist.
Alrighty, so Tortured Earth, a fairly new role-playing game, comes from the creators Artis Dowdy and KB Kidder. They're the two main creators of the game, but there's a lot of other people working behind the scenes to bring this product to fruition. To give you an idea, this is the current Tortured Earth role-playing game rulebook. This particular one is my copy. I was gonna say the other one is there's one that we have got that's going out to Blizzy Fox.
Right.
But basically, this is the game Tortured Earth. Howreroll are working closely with the designers of that game, and we are the official live broadcast outlet for all things Tortured Earth related. It's a high quality book, very great printing, good high quality glossy pages, solid, and from a gamer standpoint, the one thing I really appreciate is the binding. The binding on this thing is solid. It will not fall apart, unlike some other books that didn't do well on their first release. So, we are working in close conjunction with them. So, Tortured Earth, I know we've been talking about it here a little bit, so we're going to kind of give it a little bit more of a voice, as it were. So, the first thing that I want to kind of say about, from my standpoint, when I first saw Tortured Earth, the one thing that I really loved above anything else was, unlike a lot of games that are coming out now that either are adopting the Roll20, or sorry, the D20 system, or the D6 system, or the D10 system, or exploding dice, all this sort of stuff. They went in a completely different route and made a 100% unique game system.
Yep.
That was the first thing that really stood out to me. The second thing is how remarkably easy the system is and how quick it is.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the real fun things about the game itself. Now, the concept of Tortured Earth is best summed up by the intro for Tortured Earth, and I'm fixing to show you guys that if you haven't seen it before.
that
Fixing to
voice.
run it. So this is the intro for Tortured Earth. Go ahead and watch this, and then we'll carry on talking about it a little bit longer and kind of break some of this stuff down. So here you go. This pretty much tells you everything you need to know about Tortured Earth.
It all started on a quiet Monday morning. On the 4th of April 2016 at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, a pulse of data was received over every radio, television, tablet, and cellular device. The event that would come to be known as the broadcast repeated itself for exactly 1 hour. The visual component consisted of a simple red background and white lettering. The auditory component was heard in the language common to the region in which it was received. The message went uninterrupted, save for periodic episodes of static interference. Its message seemed meaningless and simply read, "The gate is open. Beware the mist." Throughout the next 4 years, the Earth's human population was reduced by approximately 80% due to exposure to the mist. Many of those who did not disappear after encountering the mist instead mutated into a hybridization of animals, insects, or other unrecognizable species. They walked out of the mist and into our world. For the next 43 years, the few remaining humans learned to coexist with their alien neighbors, and in some cases, even formed strong communities to combat the terrors that also came through the mist. Technology and culture degraded to a pre-industrial age. Food, clean water, and safe shelter became more important. It is now the year 2059. Welcome to our tortured Earth. Beware the mist.
Oh, alrighty. So yeah, that kind of gives you a very brief overview of what goes on in the concept of the world Tortured Earth. As we showed you on Sunday, though, literally you can pick up Tortured Earth and plug it in to absolutely any game setting or not game setting, but absolutely any play setting that you could possibly want. We picked Monroe, West Monroe. I made maps that, like, if you ever come to Monroe, go to Cotton. It's a real place. It exists. When you walk in Cotton, you will see it, and you'll be, oh my god, I've been here because I've saw the map. There's other maps that are coming up. I advise you not to find yourself in the courthouse, because what I used was literally the layout for one of the Monroe or the Washita Parish courtrooms. That was where the concept, the council meeting happened. So if you find yourself there, it's probably not a good thing. But, you know, hey, why I've been there, you don't need to know. Actually, it's because of work. They're one of my clients.
Life of crime, Gore. Let's be real.
Life of crime. But we also have some, there's going to be some other places that are going to be featured. So if you are a Monroe, West Monroe, or a North Louisiana native, you're going to recognize some of these places. And that's part of the joy. So should you live in Kentucky, Boston, New York City, anywhere you want, you can literally utilize Google Earth to create your maps and play Tortured Earth in your hometown or anywhere you damn well feel like.
And the freedom of the premise of the show and the story is such that you can really play in any kind of game world you want. Right. It doesn't have to be post-apocalyptic. It could be medieval. It could be zombie.
Exactly, because you're only a short excursion through the mist to discovering an alien civilization, going back in past, going in the future, going to a different dimension, going through a time portal. It offers total and utter freedom to do anything that you want to do. So one of the things I really loved about it is just to kind of show you a little bit of how unique the system is. And one of the reasons I like it. So in most games, when you're trying to hit somebody, you're basically rolling to hit and you're trying to hit a difficulty based on their ability to dodge or what armor they're wearing. If we're talking about D&D, the armor and the dex bonus and all that combined gives you a number. And your job is to beat that number. And if you beat it, by God, you hit them.
Yep.
It's that simple. Well, Tortured Earth works a little differently in the fact that what it does is it puts stats naturally against each other. So if you're trying to punch somebody in Tortured Earth, you're going to use physical might. They're going to obviously try to either block it or dodge it, so they're going to use physical agility. And what happens is, combat is this simple. The attacker rolls the attack stats, the defender rolls the defensive stats. Whoever gets the highest wins. The attacker rolls higher, you're hit. The defender rolls higher, he dodged. And obviously, there's things like cover that can come into play to give the defender bonuses. There's aiming that can come into play to give the attacker bonuses. There's special abilities with weapons that you can use that will increase your chances to hit. Jane's Dravik has skilled at something called Bullet Storm,
Right.
which is basically the reckless abandon of firing a pistol side fashion, not really aiming and just trying to pepper the area. All of these are talents and abilities that you can use to change that. But at the end of the day, it's still your ability to hit versus their ability to not be hit. And nearly everything, when it comes to combat, that's how it is.
Yeah.
So that's... I'm not going to say no game has ever done it, because I don't know every game, but from my knowledge, that is a fairly unique standpoint and system. And the way it comes down to it is, if you are in that scenario, and let's just say you roll a 16 and the defender rolls a 16, attackers always win a tie. So the attacker always has that slight edge. But of course, if the defender is much more skilled at defense, has partial cover and stuff like that, it's going to be a lot tougher for him to beat them anyway. But that just gives you one of the changes in it. So when we made your character, when we made Jean-Claude Van Damme, or
Yes.
Jean-Claude Veterinary, there he is. And this is a prototype. That's a prototype Tortured Earth character sheet. That one's not in the book, but it's one we're using. So when we made your character, how easy was it, and how quick was it?
Dude, it was... The only math we had to do was life points and mental points, and even that was simple. I mean, it was like, hey, do this times this, plus this times that.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, 27 life points. But everything else is like, well, I'm playing a goblin, you get a free attribute you can assign anywhere. I put it into IQ because I wanted to be smarter. So the modifications are quite easy. The items you can equip, the next fun thing was choosing your weapons, really. I mean, it's like, what weapon do you want to run as a goblin veterinarian doctor? And I was like, oh, I can get a saber thing, but it's like, well, that's more fragile, it's more prone to break, and, you have to salvage more stuff to fix it. And if it breaks, it breaks. I was like, all right, I'll do a wrist-mounted crossbow, and it's PC versus PA, which is... C is the charisma, right? I mean, is the...
Yeah, that's like your perception, because basically it's your ability to see and be aware, which if you think about it, when you're aiming at something, that's what it is.
And versus the physical agility. I mean,
their ability...
Right. Boom.
Exactly right. So what was the longest part of character development? When we made your character, what took you the longest?
Okay, so this is just a personal player thing. It was the race selection.
And that is it for everybody.
There's what, like 36 races you can choose from. I have a personal weirdness with Animorphs myself. Like, I don't like to play Animorphs because I don't believe I can... when Gorbad plays an Animorph, he does the voice. Like, when he played the Jackal in the brewery, I was like, yeah, that's a fucking Jackal. When he played the bear, Banana Joe was that his name? I was like, yeah, that's a bear bodyguard with 2 baseball bats. I can't do that. Like, I know my limitations as a player, so I was like, look, I'm not playing an Animorph. So I really narrowed the list down and helped me finally choose Goblin. I was like, I can be a Goblin.
Right, there you go.
Fast talking, high talker, good times.
Absolutely. So, as it shows you right here, as I said, we are the official outlet for Tortured Earth. You can purchase this fine book right now by going to torturedearth.com. You can get the book online. They're pretty aggressive at going to conventions, so there's a very good chance that Tortured Earth will appear at a convention near you in the very near future. But that's one of the real fun things that I really enjoyed about playing the game. I was fortunate enough to get to play it with one of the creators, Artis. And just in case you guys are not aware, poor old Yoda, who is here in chat, that is in fact R.T. Stoudy, one of the creators. And T.E. Kidder, who is also here, is the other creator. So the two creators of this game are hiding in chat right now. So they're here watching the show, interacting with you guys. Name another game where they're willing to put that much effort into supporting a show like this. And that's one of the things I can really say, not just because they're here, but the partnership that we have made with them, we couldn't be happier with as much support as they're going to give us. We're going to be having some things where we're going to be running some competitions where you guys in chat can get to create and design some stuff that will make its way into modules or possible books in the future and stuff like that. So we're going to really do a lot of things and try to bring chat into our world, our tortured
it's
as much as possible.
It's already happened.
It absolutely has.
Casino.
The adventure that we're running right now, which is a module that is written by R.T. Stoudy, which is Radiation to Riches, already has Rock Lobster in it, which is the Drang two-man terrible 80s cover band. And they have a ship or a river barge that is called the Pacino. The reason that happened is because the very first competition we did, the Pacino and Rock Lobster won copies of the book. So as an extra little kind of Easter egg, they threw that into the adventure just to kind of go that extra mile, which is really impressive. And I really thought that was an awesome thing for them to do. So, it was really cool of them to do that. So we're going to be trying to run a Tortured Earth show minimum once a month. The next sub stream that we're going to be doing, where the subs get to play, is going to be Tortured Earth. It'll be a one-off adventure in Tortured Earth, and you guys will get to play. If you haven't had a chance to pick up the book yet, now's your opportunity to go out there and get it. If you love role-playing games, it's well worth the purchase. As I said, it's a solid piece of hardware. So, it's not going to fall apart on you. And everything you need, the Monster Manual, the Player's Guide, and the DMG, is all in this one book. You don't have to buy multiple books. And as you can see from the spine here, it's even color-coded. So you can quick reference directly to the sections you want, which I thought was a really cool extra little, go that extra mile in production. So that was cool.
Look, man, it was a game that let me have a monkey. I can't ask for anything more, honestly.
Hey, Frank Dukes was funny, especially when he was looking up underneath the Dravik's coattails to try to look at her tail. Lots of fun. All right. Tortured Earth, the first official broadcast, it will be up on YouTube. If you can't wait till then, it's on our Twitch channel. Under past broadcasts, you can see Sunday's broadcast and watch it there. So, man, I don't know what to tell you. It's a fantastic game. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it here on the show.
I cannot wait.
And hopefully, start to run this thing a little bit more. As much, you know how it is. You know how we are. You give us the feedback. Tell us how much you enjoy it. The more you give us feedback, the more we will go ahead and bring you more and more of that content. Let's see. Is there a way to get the Tortured Earth book shipped for Europe? The Tortured Earth website, United States only for shipping options. I think there is a way to do it. We can make it happen. Pacino he's in Europe, and we got him his copy of the book. I think if you are, I don't want to put words into their mouth.
Archie said we are working on it.
Yeah, I was about to say, but I know that they're working on solving that problem. Yeah. And if you really want a copy of the book, prior to that, let me know. Message Howreroll, let me know, and we can make arrangements to get you your copy. We can make that happen. So I don't mind helping out and being a middleman to get you a copy of the game. Just don't go and order it through the website. Message me first, and we will make arrangements for you. So, shipping can be pretty damn expensive for a heavy book. Trust me, I know. When I shipped it to the casino, but it can be done. But if you're willing to pay for that shipping, we can make it happen for you.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So we're going to move on to our next segment for this evening, which is our Let's Talk. And this will be a little bit more fun, tongue-in-cheek, because we're going to go over some of the things, some blast from the past stuff of how we used to game back in the day. The stupid shit that I used to do when I was a DM in my first decade or so as a Dungeon Master. I'm going to tell you, it's some silly, silly stuff. Anything you possibly can think of right now, I've done something dumber, I'm sure of it. So let's move on to that segment.
Let's talk.
Oh, I just noticed the volume was way down.
Blasphemy.
I'm going to play that again just so that I get it right. There you go.
Let's talk.
Let's talk indeed. Okay, so we are going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, the growing experience from a Dungeon Master's and a player's perspective. So, a little bit of background. I first discovered Dungeons and Dragons back in 1979. That's when I first played it. I first started dungeon mastering it in October 1980. So we're telling the age a little bit there, but also to kind of give you a foundation. Now, I had the original red basic box set.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I went and bought the blue box set and purple box set and bought all the other box sets to expand the game. And then Advanced Dungeons and Dragons came out, and this, that, and the other, and the rest is history. So I'm often talking about when people asking me questions about I want to start dungeon mastering, this, that, and the other, and we get compliments all the time on the show and this, that, and the other about how we do things. Here's when it comes down to it, guys. The hammer time I discovered at the age of 1. I had a D&D onesie as a baby. That's it. That's exactly it. My first word was orc. But just like anything you do in real life, the more you do it, the better you, in theory, get at it. Especially if you're passionate, because you bother to look at your mistakes. You don't just look at your successes. You look at where you went wrong. And as I've been fondly saying before, when I first started DMing at like 10 years old, when I was 20, I looked back and said to myself, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do that. When I was 30, I looked back and said, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do that when I was 20. When I hit 40, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do that when I was 30. And you continue to evolve. Because if you're not evolving, you're stagnant, right? And the only way you evolve is to keep looking at what it is you're doing. And when you realize you made a mistake, be aware of it. So we're going to have a little chat. And we're going to throw out some of the stupid, dumb shit that we did.
Now, I have spoken to Gore about this a couple times in the past. So the examples are amazing. I can't wait to hear them again. I'm going to start laughing. Can I just start with my first role-playing experience?
That I was going to say. So, and we want to do this from both standpoints. So you can see it from a player's perspective.
Okay.
And from a Dungeon Master's perspective.
It was not Dungeons & Dragons. It was before I discovered MUDs, multi-user dungeons, multi-user domains. Those text-based role-playing games that are based off of Dungeons & Dragons. But not. It was during AOL 4.0. And they had chat rooms. Now, this is going to sound really bad. They had chat rooms that were set up for role playing. Now, not the kinky sexual stuff that you guys are probably thinking, like, oh, you go into a looking for group chat room. This was a chat room where the chat room itself, and on AOL, said a rickety old castle. And what you do, I was like 13 or 14 at the time, I would create an alternate AOL account, and it would be my character's name. And the profile for the AOL account would be the character stats, like he's an assassin with a sword, with a cloak and a cowl. And I would go into these chat rooms, and, you know, you would do the double colon to denote actions, like, you know, double colon, I stand in the doorway and look piercingly into the darkness, double colon, and then, hey, I'm here. And then other people who were role-playing would respond. Now, it's funny because nothing horrible ever happened to me. Although in hindsight, I'm thinking about it, it's like, holy shit, I was like, I could have gotten in trouble, like, you know, easily. I could have gotten the attention of wrong people. But I remember befriending this guy who was a couple years older than me, but he was a gunslinger from, like, the Old West, and he had a cowboy hat. But my character was an assassin from the Middle Ages with a sword and a cloak, and like to stealthily go in the shadows. And we would roleplay together, and I was like, this makes no fucking sense. We're in Dracula's castle in a chat room, and he's a gunslinger with 2 guns, revolvers, and like chafes and like those tinker, you know, and I'm this dude with a sword who likes to kill. So, it made no sense.
So what was the premise of that particular mud? I mean,
it wasn't a mud. It was an AOL chat room.
Oh, okay.
Created
so
your own story.
Gotcha.
With role-playing actions and what you said.
But it really didn't have any kind of
no
boundaries.
Structure. No structure
or boundaries.
No boundaries.
Right.
People would role-play god complexes like all the time. They'd be untouchable, unkillable, I'm the best. And you'd go in there as like, I swipe at you with my sword because you're evil vampire. And they would be like, oh, I dodge it. I'm over here now. You're dead. I shoot and kill you. And it's like, what the fuck? This is... But it's what I did before I found the muds. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you come to muds. Now, muds, even muds are so... Man, it's like when you're talking about muds, there are boundaries, but it's like... Imagine playing football, and for our European friends, say American football, or soccer, if you want to call it that.
Or soccer, right.
And a referee saying, okay, these are the rules, and you mustn't violate them. And then you do, and they go, well, don't do it again. And you very quickly realize there's nothing you can actually do to stop me, is there? Because it comes down to just what I type. Yeah. And you always have those players that would basically not just describe their actions, but they basically tell you what happened. I shot you and you died.
Right.
What?
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
The god complex was everywhere, and I tried my hardest not to fall into... I got pissed off once because I was playing a goody two-shoe character, and all the evil guys, and they needed me to be their counter, would RP fights with me. But there were no mechanics in the mud to attack each other and deal damage. And it was that. I swing my sword, it lashes around your neck and throws you to the floor. And I'm sitting there like, I don't want that to happen. Wait, why'd you make that happen? You're forcing your actions on me. And I got mad a few times, so I would come up with bullshit like that too. If you're going to God RP with me, I'll God RP with you. I magically fly, and I'm over here now with a light behind me. And it's just, and then I'm thinking back, and I'm like, so stupid.
Right as you went to do that, I stopped time and snuck up behind you and slit your throat. It's the evolution of kids going...
Right.
You know... Like, you know how kids do? That argument, it's like...
Yeah.
Well... I'm doing that plus 1. Well, I'm doing that plus 2. Well, I'm doing that plus infinity. Well, I'm doing that infinity plus 1. And that's, if you stop and think about it, that's what it is. You're just putting different words to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, for me, I had only, before I started Dungeon Mastering, I'd played the game maybe 3 times. I owned the game, therefore it was my responsibility to DM it. And I started playing for a group of my own cousins.
Right.
2 brothers. And we're all, I think I was 11, Wayne was 10, I think Shane was 8. Anyway, there's a couple of other people that came in. But here's the sort of thing we would do. Like, I would gleefully look through the monsters manual and think, this monster's cool. Suddenly, around the corner comes a Tiamat. Not Tiamat, but a Tiamat.
Yeah.
And our heroes would be, the players would literally, zoo dungeons were rife. There were dungeons where the orcs were living next door in a room. There was a 50 by 50 room that 5 orcs were living in, apparently. And if you went through that door and defeated them, down a 10-foot corridor after you avoided the pit trap, there were 7 elves. It never, ever entered my head at 10 years old to process, how do the elves get in and out? How do they survive? What do they eat? Where's the water? Why haven't they killed each other? How come the trolls haven't murdered the goblins? How come the dragon didn't eat the trolls? All these things, right? But you, as a kid, you don't think about that.
It's like the badass encounter versus bad after,
Right. So it was just throw it out there, throw it out there, throw it out there. So stupid stuff that used to happen. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. Once I moved on to, I moved on to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons as soon as it really came out. And I sort of had the access to the funds to purchase £20, 20 English pound books, or
right.
$29.99 expensive hardback books. But just to give you a couple of little things, when I was playing, this is when the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon came out.
Oh, I've seen examples of that.
Okay,
YouTube.
so on the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, it's Ranger, Barbarian, Acrobat, Cavalier, all these classes. And there's this little red dude who's a little short, dwarfy dude with grey hair. He wears this robe and speaks in riddles. I thought it was a great idea that as the dungeon master I should be a part of the game. So yes, I would materialize in the game, visualizing myself as this weird little dude and interact with the players. And if they was in a really nasty situation, they could call on me, almost like God intervention, and I would appear and offer them some kind of way out and stuff. And as I got older, I looked back and was like, oh no, I really did that. I remember using the random magical items tables that nowadays decent DMs don't even care about, because they allow for your campaign to be derailed. Case in point, in one particular encounter, I gave my heroes, and I think I was about 15 at the time, somewhere around there. I gave my heroes, amongst the insane amounts of loot that I gave them, a deck of many things.
Oh God, yeah, deck of many things.
A ring of 3 wishes, and a Baba Yaga's hut, and an axe of Dwarfish Lords. 2 of those are artifacts. Super rare, unique, mega powerful artifacts. And what were they doing both in the same place? Just hanging out. It wasn't even something godlike that they killed. It was like they got to the end of a dungeon, and this was part of the because I randomly rolled that crap. So it's like so here they have now a ring of 3 wishes. Now, wish magic is the most abusive, overpowered magic in D&D ever. And they have a copy of the Deck of Many Things. And the Deck of Many Things, basically, you pick 1 to 4 cards. You declare that you're going to draw 1 to 4 cards. And then you have to draw them. And once you draw them, you turn them over, and they happen to you. Now, from a campaign standpoint, there's cards like... let me see. Give you some examples here. Okay, there's a card like Knight, when suddenly a really powerful, you suddenly get the attention and fealty of some powerful NPCs. Others give you free levels. Others demote you in levels. Some of them summon deaths minor deaths for you all to fight. Some of them banish you into a other dimension that you can never get out of, basically permadeathing you right then and there.
Right.
It's so random. And then the Baba Yaga's hut, which I gave someone this one time, and I ended up being a recipient of that as well. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But that was crazy. But yeah, I used to put magic item shops in every campaign. As you wander down the street, they'd be like, "We want to go to we've got 50,000 gold. We want to go to the magic item shop." Okay, what is it? It's run by an Indian guy called Mr. Patel. There's one on every street corner. You walk in there, and you can choose to check. You can ask for today's newspaper, get yourself a Twix bar, and peruse the current magical items that he just happens to have laying around on the shelf. I'll take +3 sword. Potion of levitation will come in handy. I'll take one of these. Now, I'm not saying that you should never do something like that.
Yeah,
but this was a common occurrence. This was a thing. It was like every
town,
street corner,
every village. Yeah. They all had them. Yeah.
So
it's like, what world are you living in where magical items are collected in a shop in every town, easily to purchase, and then they are never robbed? They're never like. It's because everyone has magical items, I guess. Then no one has magical items. Is that the point?
Yeah,
it's like because everyone has it, no one has
the players were almost playing Pokemon. Displacer Beast. Ooh, we haven't killed one of those before. Gotta catch them all. It was like this craziness where that sort of thing was happening, and because back then, again, we're going by the rules. These monsters are worth this many experience points plus this many for each hit point of damage you did. So people were wandering around. You see in the distance 7 orcs. We hunt them down, we kill them, because orcs are worth 50 experience points apiece. That was the player's motivation.
Right.
Was to kill things for EXP.
Right.
So as well as giving magical items away like candy and throwing monsters at them like Pokemon, letting them fight them and stuff like that. The biggest thing in the early days was level of realism 0. Yeah. Didn't care. It didn't have to make sense because it was just a game. And our enjoyment from playing was enrolling big numbers and getting loot, which, hey...
That's fine.
Some people still enjoy playing it that way. But as we played longer, Electrum was 5 Electrum was to 1 gold piece when Electrum pieces were a thing. That's correct. But as we carried on playing over the years, it started mattering to me that the dungeons made sense. It started mattering to me that the climate made sense, that the world made sense, that the NPCs made sense. And slowly, the first evolution for me was making it make sense. Then, it was making it non-stagnant. Okay, well, this town makes sense because I've created this village and this town, and I have all these synergies, and I have all these relationships.
Yeah.
But really, they go back there after 7 years, and everything's the same. Time does not stand still. Things happen. Things change. So it developed for me to a point where, as a campaign continues to go, behind the scenes, I am reevaluating my entire world and saying, okay, while this is happening for my players, what's happening in the rest of the world? And there's been a war over here. There was a disaster here. All these different things. Climate changed here. There's a famine. An evil overlord has taken over this region, and continually changing it, so that like when players go back to the same place, it isn't the same. Things have changed. Right. The people that, like when the first campaign when you went to Lusker, Marilyn O'Hara was a housekeeper. You guys suggested that maybe she should go off and marry an innkeeper.
Right.
Well, at the same time, the local innkeeper had the hots for her. When you went back there, as we revisited that location a couple of years later, she has married this innkeeper and is now owning the inn. And things have changed, and Lusker's economy is altered, and the ruling powers are different, and everything's a little bit more level-headed, and everything's kind of changed. Crime is on the up and up because of the war, and all of these are things that, if you care about the integrity of your world, you have to do. But none of this mattered to me in the first decade of playing D&D. It really didn't. The story about the Baba Yaga's hut. So, if you guys ever saw a cartoon called The Flight of Dragons, okay, it was a fantasy cartoon. It was about a guy called Peter Dickinson who wrote a book, and he found himself in his own novel, pretty much, through a board game. He wrote books about it, and he created a board game called the Flight of Dragons board game. And unbeknown to him, the board game he's creating is mirroring a real world, a real place, and magic is dying, and the wizards all club together to pull him in. Long story short, he ends up getting merged with a dragon, and he becomes a man with a 20th century mind in the body of a dragon. There's a story.
Nice.
Well, there's a paladin in that called Orin Neville Smythe. So one of my earliest, fondest characters was I had a character called Sir Orin. Now, I say this with the utmost regret and completely acknowledging that in any real D&D game, this is not something that should happen, could happen, and ever would happen. But when you are 12, things don't always happen the way that they should.
Yeah.
So Orin was a level 54 paladin. He had at least 3 of every magical item in the book, and this is how his adventures would go. In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, once you reach 9th level, you can get a castle and a keep, and all this other stuff. And long story short, he had all this stuff. He had an army of knights. One of the other players ran a thieves guild. Another one was a powerful mage. We all had followers out the wazoo, and we had a Baba Yaga's hut, which is basically a TARDIS on crow's legs, like a little wooden shack that has crow's legs, and you open the door, and inside it's like a palace. So here's what we would do. We would get the Thieves Guild and stuff them in the Baba Yaga's hut, and we'd get the Knights and stuff them in the Baba Yaga's hut, and off we would go on our adventures with the Baba Yaga's hut, walking behind us, and then every time a fight would start, it was like, we need men-at-arms, open the door, alright, 20 of you Knights, there's a dragon that needs killing, hurry up and kill it, now when you're done, just get back in the hut, because we want the treasure. And this is literally a thing. This happened. And so we'd open the door and all these knights would flood out and they'd charge over and fight the dragon. Not that it mattered, because most of us had 3 or 4 Vorpal swords anyway, and plus 5 Holy Avengers sticking out of our backsides, so we could kill anything. When the shit really hit the fan, you looked on your fingers and said, okay, well, again, disregarding all rules that really made sense, I've got 5 fingers, therefore I can have 5 magical rings, right? Well, 3 of them are magical rings of wishes, so I'm going to use this one, and I wish the dragon was dead. Yay, we won! and this was fun to us as 12-year-olds. As you grew up, of course, you realize things, you don't get the same fun from that anymore.
Right. It's like returning to an old television show you thought was epic and realizing it's so dated and really cheesy.
And the thing is, it was silly, but it was fun. And nobody was there to tell us you're playing the game wrong. And you know what? Because screw you, this is our game, it's our fun, and this is how we want to play. Because we don't know any better, and to us, this is awesome. And I think that's one of the things that every player has a style and a way they enjoy the game world, or enjoy the game most. Every DM has a way of doing things that they enjoy the most.
Yeah.
And the goal is to get players and a DM that match.
Right.
And you all want the same things. That's why we do so much communication before campaigns and make sure that everybody's on the same page and we all understand where we're going with this stuff. But
it's very easy to. You hear it all the time on Reddit forums and threads. People saying my group, like, we're all different. I don't know how to make us all work together. And it's like, technology is a blessing and a curse in that way, because you get on Roll20 with those strangers, and then you have different play styles, different role play styles, different combat focus, different ways you build characters, and that's where clashes come in. And it's like, I was lucky to find a group that I kind of all agreed. We all kind of like were on the same page with what we expected and wanted.
I mean, it took us months to put all of you together.
Yeah, it took us.
And that was with the world at our fingertips, not just. Well, before the internet, you live in a town, and you're basically you're limited for the number of players that are around you. You got to find them. School is the only reason I got into it. School and college. Mm-hmm. You know, in school there was a ton of friends, and they played because I told them they should, and they loved it. And in college, we still played, and plenty of people would watch us play and come over and say, "Oh, I love D&D. Let me get involved in this. I want to play. How do I?" You know, and so I was fortunate. I mean, we seriously sat down the other day and talked about this. We literally had... I sat down, and for at least a solid 2-year period, played... We left college at 5 in the town of Hastings in England. Mm-hmm. I would go down to Scott and Dave's house. By 6 o'clock we were playing, and we played till midnight, Monday through Friday. Now, that's 6 hours, 5 days a week.
Yep.
So that's 30 hours, right? On Saturdays, we would be at Scott's and Dave's house by 10 a.m., and we would play till midnight, sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning. And on Sundays, we'd show up at noon and play till about 8. So we literally were playing 50, at least 50 hours a week. For 2 years solid. Now do the math.
It's a lot of hours.
And that was just in that 2-year period. So I sat down the other day and tried to get a realistic expectation, because I've been saying to people, you know, I've got several thousand hours around the table. And I stopped and realized that's such an understatement, because I had that just in my college years. Mm-hmm. So the amount of, you know, the amount of time I've put into playing role-playing games, it's scary to think that that's what I've done with the majority of my life. Other than that, and at one point, I did 2 things. Only 2 things. Mm-hmm. Role-playing games and martial arts. That was it. That was my entire life. If it did not consist of one of those 2 things, it did not matter to me. Yeah. But doing that, I learned so much. I changed. I developed skills. I was really fortunate to get involved and learn from some fantastic people. RPG Guru, John Brown, who was of TSR fame. You know, fortunate to kind of spend some time under, not specifically his tutelage, but a program that he pioneered, which was TSR's, like, how to DM workshops that they used to do back in the UK. Ran some games for the RPGA, Role Playing Game Association, for Gen Con, and got involved in tournament play and stuff like that. But it opened me up to a lot of really, really good quality dungeon masters that had a lot of tenure, that I was able to say, look, how do I do this? How do I bring this to life? How do I... But because I cared about getting better, that's why I got better. Because that was the thing for me. I wasn't content. And it doesn't matter what you do, whether you play pool or first-person shooters or chess, whatever. The more time you spend, you can get to a point where you don't get any better if you stop caring about what mistakes you make. Yeah. You know, you have to start critiquing yourself, because eventually you plateau and you start having to look and say, okay, I don't know how to get better, but I know how to not be worse. Mm-hmm. And then you start eliminating your mistakes, and that artificially raises you and gets you better, because you've got all the good and less of the bad.
It's my MUDs from 1996 to 2010. I was in the mud when I was at my computer, and I was at my computer obviously quite a lot. Either doing work, talking to friends. But when I was at my computer, I was in a mud, and if people wanted to roleplay with me, I would roleplay with them as my said character. And I must have written 2 novels, legit novels worth of things on the forums, because that was the other side of the role-playing. You're in the game with the web client doing inactions and statements, but if I wanted to write more like in-depth stories, it would be on the forums. And I still can look back at my forums, the first thing I wrote in these years, in the early years, and my excuse and what I told my parents especially was, I'm doing this to make my writing better, which is true. Right. I mean, I improved my writing style and I found my voice because I was role-playing. The problem was none of what I wrote I can use, because it was all kind of used in the IP of the mud, which is kind of a shame, because there's some good content, good things I wrote, which I just can't use. I mean, it's there and it's my writing, but that's it. That's as far as it goes. But yeah, I mean, I would every night for hours upon hours, I would be in that mud role-playing. Didn't have D&D, because my friends, my real life, there was no one to D&D with. So I wasn't as lucky as you, I'm afraid. But
right. Well, I mean, we see it here on Roll20, on Howreroll. People coming in and saying, I'd love to get involved in this, but I just don't have the people around me that will do it. So now we have those avenues with Roll20 and the internet, whereas back in the day we didn't. So that's a good thing. And my play style, or my DMing style, is incredibly different on Howreroll than it is around a table, because it has to be tailored for an audience.
Right.
So, but the biggest thing, I don't know if people realize this, but the biggest thing that I have is I cannot stand this. The fact, because when I DM around a table, I never sit down. I'm running around and incredibly animated, and instead of just, faces and voices, I'm all over the place, and it's hard for me. It was very hard for me at the beginning of the campaign when we first started Howreroll to, you have to sit still, you have to sit in the box, you can't do this, you can't do that. So even that was a learning experience, an adjustment in play.
Well, and also it was a learning, I mean, for all of us, what did people want to watch? You look at other people's shows and you're like, I can see lulls here and I can see excitement here, but by turn. We learned early on, shopping's not fun to watch. It's a necessity in D&D, but people don't really give a shit that you're going in. I mean, sometimes to talk to clerks and, patrons and stuff, it makes sense. But we did that a little too much in Marks of Intrigue, and I think we realized that, and we scaled it back. It's like, look, go shopping, tell me what you're getting, get it, and we'll be good. But if it's an important encounter, we'll act it out. Right,
that's it. There'll be a map for a blacksmith if the blacksmith is relevant.
Right. But not like every shop.
But if all you want to do is say, I need to pick up another 20 arrows. Okay, you pop down the street, you pick up 20 arrows, done.
Yeah, just
I'm not going to role play out every... Right, exactly, yeah.
Right.
So from when you first started playing D&D, which was on Marks of Intrigue.
Yes.
Do you ever go back and watch yourself on Marks of Intrigue and cringe?
All the time. I know I've gotten better as a player. I mean, just by experience and practice. I know I've still a long way to go with a lot of things. But you trying to listen to myself when I'm trying to understand what the fuck I'm doing? No, I can't do it. I chose my first class was a cleric. That's a hard class to learn in 3.5. I mean, it's not. You obviously you can get by, but there's a lot of mechanics, a lot of spells, a lot of things that I didn't anticipate I needed to get like in front of.
Right.
So which is why when I got to play the Witch Hunter, I was like, I could relax a little bit.
Right. Well, I think the writing, the experience in writing, and what we just talked about, all your experiences from the MUDs, all the years and years put into role playing through MUDs, I think is what allowed you to understand depth and understand to not think about everything on a surface level, which takes time.
Yeah.
And there are still people that have been playing for years and years and years that still do not think below the surface. That's a thing, and sometimes it's the marriage between DM and players that makes you better as a DM or as a player. Either way. But still, it comes back to the ability to constantly critique yourself, to constantly say, you know what, that sucked. I shouldn't have done that. I won't do that again.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things that you can bring to the table that can be very powerful tools, but also if they get away from you, they can also be incredibly damaging to the game as well. So, you know, there's so many facets of getting better. And I think one of the biggest issues that I see watching a lot of the other shows and keeping up, and now you're part of a lot of the forums that I'm part of on Facebook and some of these things. Right. You can see it. You can see it rife. I've been DMing for 2 years, and there's nothing I can learn. I know everything there is to know.
Right.
And they cannot take criticism, and they refuse to believe that they can do anything better.
Right.
Whereas I talk to a lot of other people all the time and bounce ideas off of people. RPG Guru, Solinsky, some of these other people. And I'm like, okay, you know, this is what I'm thinking. Can you see any other levels to this that I'm missing?
No.
Well, you know, you might want to stop and think that if this was this, then the likelihood is that this is probably a thing.
Right.
Okay, yeah, good point. And we do that sort of stuff. And you bounce, and it's good to have peers that that have a similar experience and you can talk to and can go to that level. But it's that continual growth expansion. It's the continual thirst to get better from a player and from a dungeon master standpoint.
And this show helps with the depth thing for me because, you know, I never played an evil character before. I've seen people roleplay evil characters in MUDs and in other D&D streams that I've watched. And it's always intrigued me, but I never knew if I could do it or not. So being allowed to talk to you, you know, flesh things out, get into the roots of things, find the motivations, the flaws, how they are, that's helped a lot. I mean,
right.
The way we've structured the campaigns, you know, hey, my first character was an asshole, but he was still a generally good guy. Second character was more morally ambiguous. A little, you know, he had a job to do, but he was unprepared. He was still young and immature. Back to the asshole who kind of is reformed. Now the evil. I like the progression. I still feel I'm learning as I play, and that's really cool. And yeah, I think stagnation affects a lot of tables, and it's kind of unfortunate because everyone kind of falls into that trap. You know, it's like,
well, that's right. I mean, a lot of people they have very different playing styles.
Right. That too.
Some groups are very hack and slash orientated. Others are very high magic orientated, or whatever. Yeah. And that's all cool because, as we said, if the marriage of players and DMs works, then the game is going to be fun.
Right.
Whether or not a person looking from the outside looks and says, "Well, you know, I personally think that game is stupid," or "Your game is entirely too intense," or "Oh my God, you spend entirely too much time trying to explain how this happens and that happens." Everyone's got a different view. So when you're talking about playing the game, it's finding that group that fits what you want to do. And the way you achieve that is through communication between players and the DM, which still seems to be something that there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know, but
it's one of the most common things you hear or read. People say, there's an evil person or a chaotic neutral person in my campaign, and he's derailing the story. How do I deal with it? And obviously the most common answer that makes sense is talk to the person. If there's a problem at your table, talk to the person. But at the same time, it's like, well, is your world believable enough that this character thinks the character who's doing that is kind of challenging you and your world. And if your world is a shell of a world, not a believable world, he's going to get away with it, and you're going to be stuck in like, well, I don't know how to deal with it. But if it is a believable world, there's answers. Most worlds will not let bad people get away with bad things if it's visible and shown in evidence.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Really just factual.
You know, and as you said, consequence. Consequence is a good thing. Consequence is something that you face every day of your real life. Therefore, your character should face consequence every day of their life. Right. And if they're never held to any consequence and allowed to wantonly do whatever and get away with whatever. You know, it's a lot of people come down and say, okay, you should always say yes to your players, and I agree. But there is a pretense to that. There's three things you should ask first. One is what the player doing fair and justifiable? Two, is it breaking any fundamental mechanical, quote unquote, there's the bad word, rules?
Right.
And C, is it for the betterment of the story? Now, if you can answer yes to all of those, then absolutely you should let your players do what it is that they want to do. Right. The problem is some DMs take that to an extreme, and no matter what the players do, they will always allow them, Burger King, I love you. Burger King loves you, sorry. He really does. Thank you for that, dude. So a lot of players will, they'll do that, and DMs will just, no matter what, oh, well, you really shouldn't have done that, and it pisses me off, but I'm going to let you get away with it. I'm going to let you get away with it. I'm going to let you get away with it. And eventually, there's no level of realism. If the players constantly believe there is no likelihood of death, you're stealing a huge part of enjoyment from them. And that's one of the things on How We Roll is people die. Consequences happen. You will pay the price. Sometimes you will get away with things. Other times you won't. And if you become complacent and think, well, I got away with that, you are going to fall foul to the milk crocodiles. It's going to happen. But that's our play style.
That's how
we are a storytelling. We are a very storytelling-rich show. That's our goal. Less playing D&D, more using D&D to tell the story.
Right.
So
depth and consequence are big, like number 1 and 2, respectively.
Right. You can't just think about what is my. The biggest thing is when a player says, well, what does my character think? What would my character do? Get over yourself and start looking at the world around you, the other players that you're with, or the other characters that you're with, and the NPCs that you have to interact with.
Right.
You may want to do this, but what will the consequences be this time? Because one time you may do this, and it's perfectly okay, because NPC A, B, and C are this way inclined. Another time, NPC A, B, C, and D are thus way inclined, and you're going to pay for that. And that's one of those things you have to stop and look at the big picture. I think a lot of people, when they're playing around a table, forget to look beyond that.
I think the stream might have gone through trouble.
Nope.
Oh, really?
Not on my end.
No, it's back. Hey, Wallican, how are you doing, man?
That must have been a Twitch thing, because it's good on my side.
Yep.
So, yeah. No, it's not Comcast this time, dude. No drop packets. Everything's fine. I'm green all the way and a 0% packet loss, so that must have been a Twitch up.
A Twitch up. Yeah,
a Twitch up. All right, well, so yeah, that's kind of a little chit-chat between us talking about the evolution of Dungeon Master and Player. Feel free to chime in on that as we move to our next segment, but of course it's not limited to that. Throw anything you want at us as we move into questions and answers. We will take your questions and throw out various different answers. Ask what you want. We'll answer what we can.
Viewer questions and answers.
Alrighty, viewer questions and answers. If you've got any questions for us, game-related, people-related, whatever the hell related, throw them at us and we'll do our best to answer them for you. Have you ever had anyone beat a Tarrasque? No. Not even in my stupid infancy. Tarrasque didn't exist back then, thankfully, or the answer may have been something different. But no, I have never used the Tarrasque in a campaign. I've used it in one-off that was literally, I had a group of very high-level players that wanted to truly test how badass their characters were, so we had an encounter where they basically fought a Tarrasque. They did not win.
Did they get close, or was it no contest?
They got their asses beat.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I hear all the time people posting, my level 12 warrior killed a Tarrasque. My answer to that is, your level 1 DM allowed it.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this. The best way to tell if your DM is worth their salt is how they play a dragon encounter, right? Like, if the dragon is staying on the ground fighting your party, he's no offense, but maybe he's not playing the dragon the way the dragon should be played. Dragon should be flying, killing, without taking any damage for a long time.
Right. Gore, if it's not spoilery, whatever did happen to that guy's wife? Exactly what they said. She went to work for the dogs. She woke up after, as you guys might have figured, Emlyn's book being in her house was driving her mad. The second they removed the book, she was fine. Being that she had been bedridden for over a week, suddenly, instantly having that removed, she was full of energy, full of life. She went back to work. She came home that evening. Whatever happened after she came home and found her sister and husband dead, well, they don't know that. They haven't been back. But yeah, that's exactly what she did. Gore, have you played DM'd any sci-fi? Oh, absolutely, dude. Cyborg Commandos, Traveler, Anywin, Gamma World, Conspiracy X, Warhammer 40,000, Dark Heresy, Paranoia, Judge Dredd, the role-playing game. There's a few.
Shagget, as a writer, have you ever thought about becoming a DM like Gore?
I keep trying to convince him he should do it.
I don't know, man.
I think he could potentially be a really good DM. I really do. And then I could not do half the work and just play every game every once in a while. Just saying.
I kind of still want to become. I just want to try to improve my player side. Super Mega Punch. Yeah, that's my answer to that. I'm very nervous about trying to become a DM. And if I did, it would not be in front of on a stream.
Yeah, it would be private closed game stuff, right?
Yeah, totally.
MC says, have you ever played the Eclipse Phase game? I haven't, dude. I must confess I haven't. Gore, from your homebrew experience, how open is TE for some brewing? Oh, dude, Tortured Earth, you can brew the shit out of it. Because the system is so openly light, it's really easy. We've already homebrewed it. And that's one of the great things, is because Artis and Kenneth Kidder and stuff, the people that write this game, they're in the process of rewriting the game and launching the second edition of the book. Like every single first edition release of any game, they did it, and then they looked back and said, you know, we could do this better. They did a great job on the first release, just going to say, a lot better than a lot of people do, but they're working on alterations. So there is a big errata out right now that you can get on the website, torturedearth.com. You can get that there. But already, as it's being played, you know, some of the things that people are looking at homebrewing, they're listening and saying, okay, well, makes some sense. I can see why that's a good thing. But yeah, man, you could homebrew the fool out of it.
Rock Lobster, it seems like Emlyn is the most level-headed of the group.
Oh, Cam, what's
up,
buddy?
How does it make you feel? I would not call Emlyn level-headed. I think he's pragmatic to a degree, but his selfishness is still. I don't know if I agree with that question because he's a dick. He's a horrible person.
Super Mega Punch, yes, it should be up later this week. It will be on the Howreroll website. It'll also be on our YouTube channel. YouTube/Howreroll.
Yeah, see, Milk, I agree. I think Tolgar is the most level-headed. He's the most straightforward, honorable in terms of like contracts and obligation and the rules.
Rock Lobster, Howreroll. Not sure if you answered this before, but you ever done modules? And if so, I have done tons and tons and tons of modules, and yes, I have done the Wonderland module, if it's the one I'm thinking of. The reason I do not use modules on Howreroll is because, quite honestly, we are not restricted if we use any official Wizard of the Coast product. It's the reason that the Howreroll board game is becoming a real thing, because we don't have licensing issues. We are using our world, our custom-written stuff. Everything we do is custom-written and is our own gear. So we don't have to worry about Wizard of the Coast going, no, 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 you can't use that. That's my world. So We decided early on that we wanted everything to be new and not have spoilers. And it's like when the big adventures come out. Again, this is just a personal preference. But if I paid $50 for Curse of Strahd as a dungeon master, I don't want to run it for a group of players that have already seen it being played on Twitch. I don't want to. I'm not going to invest the money in it. And as a player, if I want to enjoy the adventure, and I'm not a min-maxer who just wants to get a good idea of the adventure ahead of time so I can beat it, I want to enjoy it from a standpoint that I don't know what's coming. You know, so we don't run any official content because we don't want to spoil it for anybody. You know, so that way nobody knows what's coming next. Every adventure, you know, is you've got no idea what's going to happen from week to week.
Yeah, it does seem weird that a lot of streams just run stories that are released for everybody to play. It seems weird to me. I mean, I see what they're going for, but that's the kind of thing I would like to be surprised with. I don't want to know what's coming when I get into a story.
Right.
Which is what I love about Howreroll. I mean, I never know what's happening in the story. I'm like completely shocked all the time. Because you get so invested, you don't see everything as they're coming together in connections.
Right. How about a substream 3.5 one-off with Shagget DMs for us? Maybe one day. If I can I'll work on him. I'll work on him. I love to write stuff, but I'm a super lazy for a DM. I'm pretty shy in that. Dude, one of the biggest things that I've always said is know your own strengths. Know your own strengths. If you do not have the time or the inclination to sit down and write good quality adventures, then absolutely spend that time reading a decent module that someone else has done, learn it well, and run it well. And then you can still be very successful and give a good game.
See, that's the thing, guys, with the DM. Gorbad and people like Gorbad put it in a whole other world for me. I don't do voices well, and I know plays your strengths, but, you know, being on Howreroll, listening to Animorphs sound like they're Animorphs, you know, in a believable way, makes me go like, yeah, no, I can't do that. I can't do that.
There's that question. Super Mega Punch, Howreroll. So other D&D streams I've watched always seem to fall flat after a while. They're not bad, though, but how do you guys do it so well? What do you think sets you apart from other streams? Man, I don't like to comment on other streams. All I can tell you is what we do. We put an awful lot of quality work into every show. 10 to 16 hours of behind-the-scene work goes into every 3-hour broadcast that we do. There's a reason we do not stream every day. You can't do quality and quantity at the same time. We are more interested in quality over quantity. Also, that being said, we put an awful lot of work in studying and looking at what is fun. As Shagget said, when we're playing, if the game is in a certain position and I notice that viewers are dropping off, I make a note of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Chat did not really enjoy watching Shagget shop for new shoes for 45 minutes. So guess what? We won't make that happen. And then after the show, or before the show, we will powwow and say, okay, this happened last stream, we need to make these changes. So we're constantly talking, critiquing what we're doing, asking for feedback, looking for things. Viewers send us a lot of comments, mostly positive, but sometimes, just like everybody, we get a few negatives, and we listen.
Yeah, we listen. We
don't just go, oh, you know, we're so far stuck up our own ass that... No, we are going to listen.
Case in point, Marks of Intrigue. We spent a little bit too much time in front at the bar, drinking or having food, just talking as our characters.
Right.
There were moments where we did that, and it was fine, and it was story relevance. You know, coming up with a plan, having a tension resolved. But there are other times where we're just like, it's at the end of the night, and we need to go in the early morning to the next location, and Radovan and Racer are just sitting there, kind of just talking shit, and people stop watching.
So literally, how we handled that was to say, okay, if you've got something relevant, role play it because it'll be good. But if you don't have anything relevant,
go to bed.
When Gorbad says, okay, is there anything else you want to do tonight? That is my cue to the players to either wrap it up or get relevant. just a little thing. That's what we do. So it's really, as I said, I can't really attest to anybody else. We do it our way. We are very story orientated. We think very hard about everything we do, and we put an awful lot of back end work in. I think also we're lucky in the fact that we have a great cast. We have a group of players that work well together. For the most part, we're just fortunate to have a group that has a good chemistry. I think that if anything that I could say to other streams is one thing that you have to be careful of is with continually revolving streams or revolving casts. It's great to allow other people in and play. That's a good thing, and some people will come for that.
Yeah.
But you are running that risk of that constant changing dynamic that, you don't get many shots at picking up viewers on Twitch. If someone comes to your show, watches it, and says, this is bullshit, they're probably not coming back. You might get another shot later down the road, but most of the time you're not. So if they come at a bad time, you pay for that. So, it's really tough to know what other people are doing. As I said, all we can really do is say that we put an awful lot of work in and think very, very hard on every level, from a marketing standpoint to a viewer standpoint to a story standpoint to a playing standpoint, what we think is going to work for the show. Let's see. I've been watching you guys for about a month now. I love your faces. Ooh, you poor man. That's the one thing that we're really sorry for, that you have to watch us. Me and Shagget, that is. The others are all gorgeous. We're just...
Hey, man, that's why we have to have the personality.
If we don't have a personality, we're done.
It also comes down to, why are you streaming why are you streaming your D&D sessions? That's a question we talked about when we first started Howreroll.
Yeah.
And came together. It's why would we want to do that? What do we bring to the table that we don't see?
Yeah,
that's what we talked about. Yeah.
From a person that has a strong passion for D&D, here's what I can tell you. I can't watch a group of people play D&D. I cannot stand and watch a group of people around a table playing D&D. It'll hold my interest for a short period of time, but not long term. That is why we constantly make sure we have visual maps for everything, and we try to play less and deliver story more. Maybe that's the edge. I don't know. Maybe DMs don't have time to make their own adventure. So that's, again, I have the time, but I only have time to deliver twice a week.
Yeah.
That is it. I have a full-time job, I'm a full-time dad, and I have this show. That's what I do.
And we paid attention when people started... When we first started Howreroll, we ran one story show a week, and then we did a Reroll recap, is what we called it, the previous iteration of this talk show. And chat was clamoring for us to add a second night of the show.
Right.
And we did in the new year on 2015. Was it 2015?
Yeah.
And ever since then, no one has said you should add a third night of a show or a fourth night of a show. Because we get it. People have lives. They live it.
You can't invest that much time in us.
We
don't expect you to. We want we want good viewer numbers when we're live. Viewers is what matters to us, not followers. It's great if you hit the follow button, but for us, it's all about viewers. Twitch is about viewers. And we understand asking you to show up twice a week and give us 3 hours of your valuable time twice a week is a lot to ask for. To do more than that, it's taking the piss from my standpoint. I'm expecting more than most people can give.
Yeah.
So we'd rather have all of you here with us, our community, our fantastic Howreroll community. We'd rather you all be here with us a couple of times a week than some of you Monday, some of you Tuesday, some of you Wednesday, some of you Thursday, some of you Friday, some of you Saturday, some of you Sunday, and spread you all out like that. It's so much better when you're all together.
And then expect you to catch up on YouTube of everything you didn't get to see that week. That's crazy.
Right, you wouldn't have time.
You would have no time. Asking you to go to YouTube right now and catch up on our past campaigns, that's a lot of content.
Right.
And we don't expect it. We appreciate it, and we're like, wow, that's great. But it's 500 hours of content of 3 campaigns we've run.
Right.
That's a lot.
Joe Colton, I don't use voices for my campaign. You don't need to do voices for good. Exactly right. Play to your strengths. I know a very good DM who is on Twitch. He's very popular on Twitch, doesn't do voices. And I had that conversation with him. And he was like, I don't because I can't. I suck at it. So I'm not going to try. If I can't do it well, I'm not going to do it. But he is a fantastic mechanical DM. He knows the rules backwards. You know, he plays D&D fantastically, but he is a very play-orientated stream.
Right.
So there's a difference there. He is playing to his strengths. We're playing to ours. Really appreciate all the hard work you guys do. Your campaigns were always a treat to watch. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
RTG Alchemy, I still have to say the bar fight in Marks was possibly my favorite scene on the entire campaign. That was pretty fun, I must admit. With the Irish shanty music.
That was memorable.
I think at one point...
The frying pans.
I think Bane hit someone with a frying pan. Yep. Oh yeah, gotta love it. Here you go. Remember this? There's your Irish bar fight music. I'm actually DM'd this one game for about 3 years. It's been amazing. It's still going on. Even though I am pretty lazy in some aspects, I enjoy your work. Or thanks, dude.
Rock Lobster later on said, on an unrelated subject, how do you envision Shield Bash to work? I always envisioned it to be hitting with the broad side of the shield to push away or deal bashing damage. But I know someone who thought it worked like striking someone with the rim of the shield. We kind of answered that in the first episode of our show.
You can do it either way. Again, just remember the biggest thing to remember in any role-playing game. Think game mechanics, not rules. And if something doesn't make sense, don't feel bad to change it or make it make sense to you. You know that it's not really something that is done. But if you want to say that a metal kite shield, because it's metal and sharp and pointy, if you bring it down hard on someone, can do 1d6 damage, why not? If a wooden rimmed shield can do 1d4, why not? You know, it's entirely open to interpretation, and it allows your players to be more creative in combat, other than just, let me see the list of maneuvers that I can make.
Yeah.
You know. I came in via the DM blog, ended up on YouTube, and that was my April done for right there, and now it's 3 months later. I'm sorry and also incredibly happy at the same time.
Back to the Shield Bash, the first episode of Marks of Intrigue, I wanted to knock a guy out who was prone on the ground with my shield, and I rolled a nat 20, and that was like the last nat 20 I've ever rolled. And I ended up killing the guy because I hit him, as Gorbad described it, with the rim of the shield. But, it was because it was a crit. Like, otherwise, I think you would have just said, it's a face smash him. Right. Yeah.
Scare says, you must have been doing something right. I have just seen a few hours, but looks like the DM, the players, and not to forget the community fit great together. A nice place to be. Yes, we do have a fantastic community. And
we really do.
That's the whole point. Again, we don't want to disseminate that. We want you all to be here together and enjoy this experience with us and be part of it. And again, if we throw you all to the wolves and expect you all to be here all the damn time, it'll never happen.
I mean, the community is truly great, except for junk.
Right. Callus says, I'd rather watch old campaigns than bad TV. I would too.
So much.
Super Mega Punch has already made it to the end of Children of Jakar. Damn, dude.
Holy Super Mega. Are you like at the end, or are you like last few episodes?
I think castration should be Radaman's signature attack. Oh, man. All right, we've got through all of your questions. Thank you for you guys for hanging out with us. Just as always, thank you for spending the last couple of hours on your Tuesday night hanging out with myself and Shagget. We've really enjoyed having you here. Thanks for our new follows. Thank you for each and every viewer. We will be back on Thursday for the continuation of Wrath of the Fallen. I myself will be spending tomorrow morning hanging out with certain Mr. Artiste Dowdy, talking about our future plans for Tortured Earth, so that'll be fun.
Nice.
As we've said, I jokingly referred to it as our two old women coffee date. We meet up we basically, for this event, we're going to go and we're going to meet up. We'll have a whole bunch of coffee and talk about a whole bunch of plans. So it'll be fun. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, man. Hey, we're a cool community. A lot of people have anxiety in this chat, so there's a lot you can talk to about it.
Damn straight.
Just chillax, relax, no judgment, all good,
And if we do judge, just remember, it will only ever be a moderate amount.
It'll only be a moderate amount, and people will know that it's a joke, for the most part. Although I really do hate junk, just saying.
You're an evil man. All right, guys, we appreciate it. Thanks. Y'all have a blast. Hi there, I'm Gorbad. Welcome to the Orc's Nest. I'm the Dungeon Master here on Howreroll, and if you'd like to follow me personally, you can do so on Twitter @Gorbad. Check out thedmblog.com for all things Dungeon Master and Dungeons & Dragons related. And of course, you can follow me on twitch.tv/Gorbad. Also, guys, don't forget to keep up with all things Howreroll. Follow us on Twitter @Howreroll. Check out the website www.howreroll.com, and make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. Cheers, guys.
I'm the Dragon Spooker, and I play Femme Fatale Lilith Edenwood the Dancer. You can follow me on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/thedragonspooker or on Twitter @dragonspooker. You guys rock my face off, and I can't wait to see you next stream.
Look, I get it. I'm not as cool as Emlyn, the tiefling warlock I play for Howreroll. The dude has 20 charisma. And, well, you guys have seen how I roll. If you suffer from character is cooler than you-itis, maybe we can help each other. Follow me on Twitter @eneb_convos. Maybe make a moderate difference. Let's do this, guys.
Hello and well met. My name is Liv on Howreroll. And when I'm not Liv on Howreroll, I'm Amanda or DM Dicerous on Twitter. I have an up-and-coming new podcast called Dead Dice Society you'll be sure not to want to miss. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wrath of the Fallen. I'm Jane, and you can follow me on Twitter, the only place where it counts, @Jane on Twitch. That's with a 0, not an O. Peace, suckers. So bad.